Brazil edge Egypt 2-1 in thrilling World Cup warm-up clash. What happens when one of football's greatest nations faces one of Africa's most determined teams just days before the FIFA World Cup? You get drama, passion, brilliant goals, and a match that leaves fans talking long after the final whistle. Brazil and Egypt met in a highly anticipated international friendly, and while the scoreline finished 2-1 in favor of Brazil, the game was far more competitive than many expected. This wasn't just another friendly, it was a test of tactics, a test of squad depth, and a test of who is truly ready for the biggest football tournament on earth. From the opening whistle, both teams showed intensity. Brazil entered the match carrying enormous expectations. Every time Brazil steps onto a football pitch, fans expect attacking football, beautiful skills, and victory. But Egypt had no intention of being spectators. The African side came into the game determined to prove that they can compete with the world's elite. The early stages of the match were fast and energetic. Brazil controlled possession, moving the ball confidently across the field. Their midfield dictated the tempo, while their attackers constantly searched for openings in Egypt's defensive structure. Egypt, meanwhile, remained organized. Instead of chasing the ball recklessly, they stayed compact and disciplined. Their game plan was clear: absorb pressure, defend intelligently, and strike on the counterattack whenever opportunities appeared. The first major chance came for Brazil. A quick passing move split Egypt's defense, creating space in the final third. The Brazilian attackers combined beautifully, forcing Egypt's goalkeeper into an important save. It was an early warning sign. Brazil were beginning to find their rhythm. As the pressure increased, the breakthrough finally arrived. Bruno Guimarães stepped forward and produced a moment of quality. The Brazilian midfielder timed his run perfectly and finished calmly to give Brazil a 1-0 lead. The stadium erupted. Brazil had the advantage. The goal reflected the way the match had been unfolding. Brazil were dominating possession and creating more chances. For a moment, it seemed like the South American giants might take complete control. But Egypt had other ideas. Instead of losing confidence after conceding, they responded with determination. Their players continued to fight for every ball. Their midfield worked tirelessly. Their defenders remained focused. And gradually, Egypt began creating opportunities of their own. One of the biggest strengths of the Egyptian team has always been resilience. Even against stronger opponents, they rarely give up. That mentality was visible throughout the match. The equalizer eventually arrived. Mostafa Ziko found space and delivered a clinical finish. Suddenly, the score was 1-1. The Egyptian bench exploded with celebration. Their fans erupted with joy, and the entire momentum of the match changed. Brazil were shocked. Egypt had proven they belonged on the same field. The equalizing goal transformed the atmosphere. What had looked like a controlled Brazilian performance suddenly became a real contest. Both teams sensed that victory was within reach. The remainder of the first half featured intense battles across the pitch. Every tackle mattered. Every pass mattered. Every mistake carried consequences. When the halftime whistle arrived, the score remained level at 1-1. The match was perfectly balanced. During the break, both managers had important decisions to make. Brazil needed more creativity and sharper finishing. Egypt needed to maintain their discipline while continuing to threaten on the counterattack. As the second half began, Brazil increased the tempo. Their attacking players pushed higher up the field. The midfield circulated possession more quickly. The pressure on Egypt's defense intensified. Wave after wave of Brazilian attacks tested the African side. Yet Egypt continued to defend courageously. Their organization frustrated Brazil. Minutes passed without a breakthrough. The Brazilian coaching staff became increasingly animated on the sidelines. They knew that simply controlling possession was not enough. They needed a goal. Then came the decisive moment. One of Brazil's brightest young stars stepped into the spotlight. Endrick. The teenager has already been compared to some of the biggest names in football. Many fans see him as part of Brazil's future. In this match, he demonstrated exactly why expectations are so high. Receiving the ball in a dangerous position, Endrick showed composure beyond his years. He created just enough space and delivered a finish that found the back of the net. Brazil were back in front, 2-1. The celebration said everything. Relief, excitement, determination. Endrick had delivered when his team needed him most. For Brazil, the goal represented more than just a lead. It was confirmation that the next generation is ready to contribute on the biggest stage. For Egypt, it was a painful setback. After working so hard to equalize, they once again found themselves chasing the game. But Egypt refused to surrender. The final stages of the match became increasingly dramatic. The African side pushed forward in search of another equalizer. Their attackers took more risks. Their midfielders joined the attack. Every opportunity mattered. Brazil, meanwhile, attempted to manage the game intelligently. They continued to control possession while looking for chances to score a third goal. The tension increased with every passing minute. Fans from both sides understood how important momentum can be before a major tournament. Even though the match was officially a friendly, neither team wanted to lose. Then another major storyline emerged. Brazil defender Wesley suffered an injury that immediately caused concern among players and staff. Medical personnel rushed onto the field. The atmosphere changed instantly. In football, injuries are always worrying, but injuries just before a World Cup can be devastating. The images were difficult for Brazilian supporters. Players gathered around their teammate. The coaching staff looked concerned. and questions immediately began to arise about his availability for the tournament. Unfortunately for Brazil, those fears would later be confirmed. The injury was serious enough to rule Wesley out of the World Cup squad. What should have been a night focused entirely on victory became mixed with disappointment. Football can be cruel. One moment you're celebrating a win, the next moment you're worrying about a teammate's future. As the clock continued ticking toward full time, Egypt launched one final push. Long balls entered the penalty area. Crosses flew into dangerous positions. The pressure mounted. Brazil's defense was forced to remain fully concentrated. Any lapse in focus could have resulted in another equalizer, but Brazil held firm. Their defenders made crucial clearances. Their goalkeeper remained calm under pressure. And eventually, the referee blew the final whistle. Brazil 2. Egypt 1. A hard-fought victory for the 5-time world champions. The result will provide confidence heading into the World Cup. Brazil showed quality, resilience, and the ability to respond under pressure. Most importantly, they discovered another match-winning contribution from Endrick. However, there will also be lessons to learn. Brazil created chances, but occasionally struggled to convert them. Defensively, they allowed Egypt back into the match. And the injury to Wesley remains a significant concern. For Egypt, despite the defeat, there were many positives. They competed bravely against one of football's biggest powers. They demonstrated tactical discipline. They showed character after conceding first. And they proved that they are capable of challenging elite opposition. Matches like this can build belief. Sometimes a narrow defeat teaches more than an easy victory. Egypt's players can leave the field knowing they pushed Brazil all the way. Looking ahead, both teams will now shift their attention to the FIFA World Cup. Brazil remain among the tournament favorites. Their squad is filled with talent, experience, and emerging stars. Whenever Brazil enters a World Cup, expectations are enormous. Fans dream of another trophy. Players dream of immortality. And the football world watches every move. Egypt's ambitions are different, but equally important. They want to make history. They want to represent African football proudly. And they want to surprise those who underestimate them. If this match showed us anything, it's that modern international football is more competitive than ever. The gap between teams continues to shrink. Every nation believes it can compete. Every player believes they can make a difference. And every match can produce unforgettable moments. Brazil ultimately secured the victory, but Egypt earned respect. As both teams prepare for the challenges ahead, one thing is certain. If this friendly was any indication of what's coming, football fans around the world are in for an incredible World Cup. Because when talent meets determination, when giants meet challengers, and when national pride is on the line, anything can happen. And that's exactly why we love football.